it's interesting how somebody could hear all this and their first response might be, well, I'm just exploring my sexuality. The excuses that come with this addiction, like it fascinates me. Men that are married, and look at porn, they justify it to their wives by saying, "Hey, I'm not cheating on you. This is just something guys do." The excuses that men and women come out with to justify looking at this stuff, it's amazing. Wrong and right was never very hard. Like, it's not that hard. As much as we try to complicate it as human beings, like, we know when things are right and when things are wrong. Like, and sometimes our minds, the Bible talks about, like, your mind, God over to debased mind, which basically means you've done something so much where you've numbed your conscience. Look at how it's affecting you. Look how it's affecting your relationship. Is it hurting you? It's absolutely hurting you if you don't know the answer to that question. But is it hurting your spouse? That's the big one. If something hurts your spouse, that should tell you that there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. It's something we see constantly, but sometimes, as you said, you can justify it. Your mind becomes numb to the sin. It becomes a stronghold in your life. You've accepted it as something that you're going to be just doing, even as a Christian. And it hardens your heart, right? So you're no longer convicted about this sin. But the issue with sin, especially pornography, is that it continues to lead because it never satisfies.
Yeah.
So, I've dealt with pastoring people who have, they're married. Mm-hmm. And I remember this really young, very attractive couple. And the husband was, just counseling him, and he was just telling me how, he's like, you need to pray for me. He's like, I have years and years of viewing porn, and even as a married person. And he said that he was dealing with erectile dysfunction in the bedroom because no longer does normal sexual encounter give him the ability to, be one with his wife in private. And so he's mortified and upset about it because the problem with pornography is that the thing that could really excite you in the beginning no longer does. So it takes you down this horrible path. And I think with some of the pornographic statistics, it's like, porn is getting more violent, more, like rape porn and weird, perverse porn, incest porn, things of this nature, because this is now needs to be more perverse, more exciting, more. And so oftentimes, it's not all the time, but oftentimes people start out with porn, end up in prostitution, hiring prostitutes or trying to become more and more, provocative in their sin.
Yeah, I like to call it a gateway. Refer to it as a gateway drug.
Great term.
Yeah. It really does, because that is the truth. At some point, the potency of it isn't there. It's not strong enough. So then you have to adjust your strategy to look at something a little bit more, like you said, violent, or a little bit more promiscuous, in order to get that thrill. And every time you do that, you go further and further down the rabbit hole. And then coming back to your spouse, it's no wonder why it's hard to connect with them sexually afterwards, because it's the beauty of just connecting with them on that level has already been perverted to a point where it's not working anymore.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so, it's the neuroplasticity of our minds is something I think we need to talk about, because the Bible talks about renewing your mind as a Christian, and then we see in science that the mind is moldable, malleable, and we need to, people say, well, this is just the way I am, and it's like, no, you can actually change through the power of the Holy Spirit, and through taking every thought captive that the Word talks about. You can change the way your mind craves things. So, you might have a neural path of like a highway of thinking where your brain goes, this is the dopamine response to escape how I'm feeling, right?
Yep.
So it might go, it might have that urge in a biological way or in your mind to just go, hey, go to porn in this circumstance or this instant.
Yeah.
And because you kept doing that, on that neuroplasticity, you've made that major highway of direct connection. But if you start taking every thought captive, if you go like that thought, that temptation comes in your mind and you hold it captive and go, no, I'm not going to do that. And the less you take that thought highway, then it becomes overgrown. If you look at like a highway that's been abandoned in Pennsylvania, there's a town that has been abandoned. You can kind of go visit it if you can get there. But there was under a coal mine that caught on fire. It's still on fire today.
Oh, dang.
So the whole town had to evacuate. And I think, I want to say this was like in the 70s or 80s. And you go there today and all the beautiful asphalt and paved roads and everything has now been broken down by nature. And so all the trees are now growing out through the asphalt and the brush is growing over it. So no longer are many of these roads even passable,
Dang.
right? Because they've been not cared for and not traveled. And so in the same way, our minds, the less you travel down it, the less your brain goes, oh, this thought pattern no longer brings this dopamine response.
Yeah.
And so it breaks down the neural pathways. And that's why it's better to, think about the word every time you have a temptation, like read the word, go on a walk, go on a prayer walk, pray, do a physical activity. And you're training your brain, you're renewing your mind to actually have a different response when you're having these feelings, sensations, or thoughts.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're breaking down that neural pathway and rebuilding other highways so that no longer it's a main road for you to travel.
Yeah. I was reading a book by Caroline Leaf that explains the process that you're referring to quite in detail. And yeah, that's one of the first parts that she mentioned was that the moment that you can consciously recognize that you're in that mode of wanting to gravitate towards any kind of addiction or habit, that is the first step to start building those neural pathways around that area that takes you to porn or shoplifting or whatever it is.
Again, special thanks to Pastor Paul Martini for helping us talk about a subject and diving deep. We'll be back with part 2 in a few weeks.